bad.
What's up? Another episode of the Ripple Effect Podcast. I'm your host, Ricardo Renz, also known as Ricky Renz. I almost messed up with the rolling of the R's. Can't mess that up. We have returning guest, Dr. Carrie Madej. Last time she was on was a little bit ago. It was like about 7 months ago. It's episode 283. Dr. Carrie Madej, Vaccines, Eugenics, and the COVID-19 Hidden Agendas. That's what the episode was called. This episode went a little different. We ended up talking about spirituality, eugenics a little bit, a bunch of other topics that we didn't talk about on the last show. I did hear some hissing from time to time, and I'm going to try to cut that out, try to clean it up a little bit. For some reason, out of nowhere, my microphone will start it almost sounds like static or something, and I can't figure out what the hell is causing it. I think I might have resolved it, but we'll see if a future episode, if it happens. Sometimes I'll do a 2-hour episode, have zero issues, and then other times, 2 seconds into an episode, there'll be this static with my microphone or some hissing or whatever. So some type of weird noise that affects the quality of my audio. So I'll keep trying to resolve that and figure that out, but I'll try to cut out any really bad stuff or try to edit it in some way to make it less worse. But yeah, fun conversation. It was before the 4th of July. I was kind of stressing out about getting this out before the 4th of July because that's when I had a little weekend getaway with the family, and I want to get all these episodes I recorded before the 4th out before the 4th. Now I'm done stressing about it. I'm just going to release it, and I'm happy that I finally get it released. In this episode and many of the other episodes, beginning of July and in June, I kind of felt like the stresses of everyday life were kind of getting to me a little bit. Hopefully, it's just me over-critiquing myself and over-analyzing the way I sound and my focus and my energy levels for some of these shows, and hopefully you still feel like these shows are good and it wasn't affecting me too much, but I definitely felt like I was struggling to find the energy and the focus necessary to give the guests and the listeners 100%. I always try to put the bar kind of high for myself, and I know that probably sounds silly at times because I'm an idiot and sometimes I get things wrong, and sometimes I talk too much and too long, but those are all things that we work on. Enough of me just kind of ranting about my own flaws. This is a value for value show. If you get some value out of this conversation, which I hope you do, think about purchasing some merch, Ripple Effect Podcast, merch.com. Think about going on Patreon, supporting us there. We have a PayPal account if you want to tip the show. I have a Rockfin channel. I also have an Odyssey channel, BitChute, Float, all the video platforms out there. You can basically find Ripple Effect Podcast, and YouTube's about the only one that censored me so far. So all those other channels, you can find all the episodes. But the best way of kind of bypassing any censorship is subscribing to our RSS feed on Podcast Addict or any of the podcast apps out there. And also remember, we have the UNWANTED, which is my other show I do with Midnight Mike, Sam Tripoli, and Charlie Robinson. That's available on all audio podcast apps and also on Odyssey and Rockfin, and I believe it's on Float. And make sure you subscribe to us on those other platforms because we've already had some shows removed from YouTube. So that's it, guys. Support the show if you can. If you can't, tell people about the show, review, all that type of stuff. And I will talk to you guys on the next one. Peace.
I'm ready.
Let's get right into it. There's plenty to talk about. It's been a while. I don't know if you remember. We've done quite a few interviews since last we spoke, but a lot has happened since, and not all bad, I think. I think since last we spoke, it was a lot of people like us who are asking questions and being skeptical about what was going on and the vaccine and all these things. And now it's becoming much more mainstream in the conversation. A little bit, I'm sure you've kept up with Dr. Robert Malone, the mRNA creator.
Hmm. Yes.
Yeah, I mean, it's awesome to have people like him who aren't considered like anti-vaxxers or conspiracy theorists, having people like that and Brett Weinstein and people who have not been in this world like we have been in for a while, having them speak out, I think it brings a little credibility to the whole movement and the whole situation. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I think so. We see at least a few people coming forward to speak up. It's not easy though. You know, when you do that, then your normal job is on the line and your reputation. So, but you know, the what the stakes are right now is humanity. So it's hopefully more people will start speaking up.
Yeah, I mean that's the thing is a lot of people have kind of moved on with their lives and they just kind of started because like where I live in Massachusetts, they lifted everything. They kind of gave us all our freedoms back overnight and said, "Hey, go on with your life." And I'm curious if they could almost foresee just the lack of suppression of the truth for too much longer. So they kind of wanted to make sure we were busy when when people started being outspoken and all these stories started coming out. And you had the Dr. Fauci emails. You have now somebody like the actual creator of the our mRNA technology being outspoken. I mean, that's kind of a lot of big deals are happening, and yet people are like, well, I get to go to restaurants again, so who cares? It's like, and like you said, like there's a fight
Yeah.
for humanity going on, and I almost feel like it's a great distraction, and it's a well thought out trick to keep us occupied.
Um, yes, of course. And you're right about everybody's going on with their normal lives as though a genocide's not happening right now. It's pretty crazy to me. But I think that's part of psychological warfare. You know, you can't take too much away from people because they'll start fighting back. So you always, once they get to this point of really getting sick of it, then you give them a little of their freedom back or a little of their things back. So that's a typical ploy of going back and forth like that. That's not surprising at all. And the amount of people that are waking up around the world, I mean, that is growing. It just isn't as fast as we would like to see it. But I always want to remind people that it's not just about questioning about this virus. It's not just about questioning about the whole plan and the vaccine injection. Once you start questioning a few of those things because it's so obvious something's not right, you have to start asking the bigger question. And that leads you to the reality of our world about everything you thought you knew about the world is wrong. And that is such a huge shaking of your foundation that most people run from that. They're scared. They'd rather put their head in the sand and think about something else. And so it takes some patience and understanding about that and some time. And little by little, we're seeing more people wake up with that. So that's important to know. Meantime, yeah, as these injections go forward, yes, we're seeing a lot more. The death count goes up and the adverse effects are increasing. There's anecdotal reports of people that are magnetic, even the people that aren't injected though. So there's another thing going on, as well as some of the people injected have more EMF coming from their bodies. So these are brand new phenomenon in general happening. And now what's really concerning me so much is the children are being targeted now. The children who have no risk at all of dying from this at all. And they're pushing it to a younger and younger age without the safety or efficacy at all. And knowing that we have to be concerned about fertility as well as everything else. I mean, there's blood clotting disorders, there's, neurodegenerative, all kinds of things, autoimmune cancers, but to really target these young people where their ability to reproduce is gravely in danger because of what we've seen already and what we know already. It's, these are, to me, it's war crimes. You can't just dance around it because these are crimes against humanity. and coercing and manipulating, and without the data to uphold this, and going after the young people that they're fragile and they're weaker and they need our protection, not to be used as targets, not to be used as guinea pigs. And I'm really disappointed, not only in the medical professionals, but in just the common person, in general. This is not like a bad flu season that will go away. As far as the politics that surround it are pushing us in a direction of changing our whole world within just a few years to 9 years. And it's not in the benefit of the common person like you or me. So it's a call to action. Stand up. If you don't want to stand up for yourself, if you're happy this way where it's going, okay, that's your choice. But you have to defend and protect the children that are coming up into this.
Yeah, I just retweeted a short video of a 12-year-old. Her name was Maddie, and she had an adverse reaction. And for some reason, well, it's not for some reason because we know the reason, but this is a real heart-wrenching video of the mother. I don't know who she's talking to, but she seems like it's a conference or something. And she's telling the story of how she is an engineer of some sort, and her husband's been in the medical field his whole life, and they're very pro-vaccine, and they were so excited to have all three kids be involved with the Pfizer trials and all this stuff. And then Maddie, their 12-year-old daughter, ends up immediately having an adverse reaction. She's in a wheelchair. She doesn't look like she's in very good shape. Somebody tweeted this, and you can't. I was actually trying to send it to somebody, and you know how sometimes you can share a tweet with, through a text message. Well, that function is gone. A bunch of functions were gone. You basically can't do anything with the video. And this is the type of suppression that scares me, because I think most people, if they have all the information and they're presented all the information, they can come up with a pretty good conclusion on what's going on and if something's safe or unsafe. The problem is, especially with like many of us who have been on the side of being very skeptical of vaccine and vaccine safety and science and all that stuff, we've gone down those rabbit holes. We've seen all the evidence. We've seen the Dr. William Thompson story. I've had Dr. Brian Hooker on the show, and you look at like all these great researchers and outspoken people throughout the years who really paint the whole picture, and you can kind of come up with a logical conclusion. Unfortunately, because of big tech and censorship, and you know this because you've dealt with it, I've dealt with it, people are getting one side of the story, and makes me so upset, because I truly think that so many people that have been brainwashed in believing that all vaccines are safe and effective, anybody who questions it is ridiculous. It's only because they haven't had access to all the information. If they did, it wouldn't seem like such a crazy theory that vaccines could harm somebody. I mean, logically, and I know people are sick of me saying this, I've said it a bunch of times, scientifically, it doesn't make any sense to give everybody one thing and think that they're going to have the exact same reaction. You give everybody peanut butter, some kids are going to die. So this idea that for some reason vaccines are the only thing in the world that you can give to everybody and nobody has a reaction to it. I had a discussion with my brother-in-law not too long ago, and he's like, yeah, the COVID vaccine, but the majority of vaccines are safe, right? We know that. And I'm like, we do? I'm like, where do you get this information? Is it from the same news station that every other commercial is a big pharma commercial? You ever think that there's some conflicting issues there? It boggles my mind. But I do think that the positive thing, and we talked a lot about this on the show about 2020, is a lot of people that I know that would never, ever question vaccines are now much more open-minded to it, because like you said, some of these things are becoming so obvious. But I think some of the pushback also is, like you mentioned, your whole world shatters. Like it's the beginning of your mind being open to all these other theories, and maybe realizing, okay, maybe things aren't what they seem. And I say this quote all the time, it's easier to trick somebody than convince them they've been tricked. And people push back. People have a hard time coming to grip with the fact that maybe the way they perceive the world has been an illusion, because it really is.
Yeah, you're right. That's the biggest problem, isn't it? And to know that we are seeing those people wake up and see the knowledge and understand it, comprehend it. But then I'm sure you've seen this. On the other hand, you see people that are presented with all the knowledge and willingly take their children to go get injected. And we've seen this where the child has a reaction to these injections and the person brings them back for a second one. I mean, or the doctors themselves being presented with data, or the doctors themselves even admitting they're being coerced and manipulated to not report these adverse events and these what these injections are doing to theirs. And they know that there's something else going on, but yet they still support it, and they don't even do their Hippocratic oath where they or give them informed consent. What I don't understand that. I don't understand that mindset. I don't understand this. It almost appears like they are in a trance or brainwash where you present them with these facts they can't deny, and yet they still do the opposite of the facts.
You think a
It's
trauma is just so deep rooted? Because you see people in Massachusetts, like basically Big Brother, finally said you don't have to wear a mask anymore, and there's still people all over the place. Not all over the place, but there's still a lot of people wearing masks.
trauma, Ricky, but trauma of what? I mean, they've had bloodshed and things. This isn't trauma. I hate to tell them that, but wow, we could have something way worse than this, right?
Yeah, I guess what I mean by trauma is they did such a great job of scaring people, and all the anxiety of like not knowing what's going on, all the conflicting information, all the things that were going on, and the uncertainty of the future. I remember driving around and just everything looked like a ghost town, and I'm like, this is the weirdest thing I've ever seen.
Because people went along with it, like the emperor that wore no clothes. That's my point. Is they just easily just went along with the lies, and the lies aren't going to stop. I hate to tell people that. Now that they know that you just go along, they only continue from now on, and it's going to get worse. It's about, you've got to face what's happening. You've got to face that these lies give will never lead to anything good. If you accept them now, they only get worse. And look around what's happening. Don't look at the major media. Look at just some of the data that we have so far. It's unbelievable. And just look at the people talking, like Fauci says masks are good, then they're bad, then they're good, then they're bad. I mean, they're all going back and forth. The CDC goes back and forth. The World Health Organization goes back and forth. They're purposely misleading people. They're purposely lying to you. So if they purposely are lying to you, don't do anything that they say and start looking at what's going on. We're talking about something very evil that's happening around the world. And, I think it's the problem with people too, is that they became so disconnected from everything, including themselves, with the advent of the electronic devices, right? So they're always on their phone. They're never talking with each other. They're not having dinner with each other. They're not they're not really involved with their kids or their family members or their community. Everyone's so disconnected, even from themselves. So this this kind of apathy that you see, whatever gets me by, whatever happens, that spell has to be broken, because it's the most pivotal time of human history right now. And I guess they are brilliant for not introducing bloodshed right now, because that would shake people out of it a lot faster, I think. But not having any bloodshed over this, just by that war in the mind, it's a very powerful thing. And but what we try to keep getting the information out there. But I believe that prayer and God is the thing that will save us ultimately. It's the most powerful thing. And so I'm going more towards helping people and joining groups that are more praying and teaching people how to connect with God again. I think that's the answer.
When I was referring to people still wearing masks, I do think there was some trauma in regards to, maybe trauma is the wrong word, but the fear was so deep rooted and it worked so well that they're still convinced that there's something or maybe they still are afraid of something, even if there isn't anything there or any evidence to justify them being afraid. So I think without a doubt, it's psychological. It's been so deep rooted in their consciousness that now that they can't seem to get out of it. But yeah, I mean, these bigger questions, I'm always curious on the difference between like the person who's still wearing a mask and then the person like yourself who questions things immediately. Obviously the brainwashing didn't work, the social engineering didn't work. What do you think that is? Because I mean, you were in the medical field. I think the school system definitely does us no favors, because what it does, it tells you to don't question things. It tells you to regurgitate information. It tells you that the hierarchy knows better than you. Listen to them. And to me, it doesn't. We don't have a system that really rewards people who ask questions or goes against the narrative or goes against the grain. I know that personally because I got in a lot of trouble in school asking too many questions or going against the grain. And initially I was thrown into special ed because I was like, you must have problems learning, or you must, and then I was thrown into vocational school because it's like, oh, you're not book smart, you're more of a hands-on person. I'm like, oh, this wasn't a learning thing. It wasn't that I didn't enjoy learning. It was I just didn't like the way they presented it to me, and they didn't explain to me why this information is important. They didn't relate it to the world for me to better understand it, or relate it to myself so I can better understand myself. I mean, there was just no connection there. It was just regurgitating information. And to me, that was boring. But what do you think was the important part of your journey that maybe helped you see through the BS and the propaganda?
Yeah, I mean, I was similar to you where I was always, kind of in trouble in school, or it took me a while to acclimate to how people learn in a traditional setting. So yeah, they want to put me in special ed, all that. But I think the main difference is that I am so close with God, and I know that we are sovereign souls that are more than this shell of a body. And so because I connect with God and that divinity inside me, they're not going to take away my mind. They're not going to lower me into just a blob of cells. I have this as a kid, I have this, this knowing, this is not how, life isn't fair. Yes, but we have human rights. And to allow yourself to have no human rights, or for them to be taken away, to destroy your holy temple, to allow someone to completely tell you how to think and how to be, well, then you're not human anymore. And to me, there's nothing that could buy me. There's nothing that could buy my ability to think independently, to be an independent person. And so I will do anything to defend that. And I'm not afraid of death because I know I'm eternal. So it doesn't matter. I mean, you threaten me with death, that doesn't scare me. I am an eternal soul. I'm sovereign. And I've known that since I was a kid. So they have been successful in taking God out of everything, even the churches. Most churches don't have a feeling of God in them, or spirit. And so they have taken it out of everything systematically, and people don't even know who they are. They have no idea who they are. And so they're willing to sell themselves for very little, and for the illusion of safety and that Stockholm syndrome. But if they only remembered who they are, where they came from, the divinity that's inside them, and that they've been given the gift of free will and choice, this wouldn't be happening right now. That wouldn't have happened for more than a day,
The spirituality thing is interesting because I do. So I'm not a religious person. I've had actually, I think in the last year or so, I've had more religious people on than ever, because we seem to be fighting the same fight, and we're fighting for the same things. And I was raised a Catholic. I was born in Portugal. Typically, Portuguese people are Catholic. We're raised Catholic. I did the whole, fought back against it. Did the whole rebelling against, religion, and just being like, oh, this is a team, and then they're not open minded and all this stuff. And then I got really intrigued with like Richard Dawkins and Christopher Hitchens and all the atheists. And then I realized like, oh wow, these guys are more extreme than the other team I thought was extreme. And I realized like they're equally, like to me it was like I just left one team to join another team. And I feel like spirituality, it is missing in the world. It's missing, and I think it can do a lot of good in regards to asking these bigger questions, like asking the questions of, what is this all about? What's the meaning of life? Why are we here? Um, because if not, if we just look at things at the material level, then it's really easy to get caught up in just the grind of everyday life of going to work and buying these material things, and we attempt to find meaning in those things that are not important and not valuable. And that's why I'm a big fan of people who question these or ask these questions and question the way we live and what our lives are really about and what the meaning is. And finding fulfillment and finding and asking these bigger questions, to me, like people who are on that path, they seem to be less likely to be tricked into, like you said, being bought, being corrupted, being because the people who are just trying to gain unlimited ones and zeros in the bank account, or trying to get more material wealth, that's all they care about. That's all they think about. So it's like, okay, what's the bottom line? Oh, I can make more money. So yeah, I'll do this. Yeah, I'll do that. Morals is not even something that's considered. Our legacy, how people can remember us, that's not really important to them. And there's this Harvard philosopher, Michael Sandel, that I was a fan of when I was growing up and really getting into philosophy. And he talked about how we're supposed to, capitalism is supposed to be just a method of trading and having a economy, but now it's deep rooted into our culture. We've become a capitalist society, not just a capitalist economy. And what he meant by that is how everything has become about money and about financial gain, and nothing else seems to matter or be as important. And I agree with that. And you see people like, like Russell Brand, who, is a very spiritual person, talks about spirituality a lot. And I'm a big fan of hearing him speak and his ideas. One thing I like about him too is like he's another guy who's he just had a great interview with Ben Shapiro. If you haven't seen it, I highly recommend you guys checking it out. And I really enjoyed them coming together, because it was like you would think that they're on two different teams, and then you put them together and you're like, we're not that different. We have a lot of similarities. We have a lot of we want a lot of the same things. We're searching for a lot of the same things, and that's really important. I'm sorry that downloaded song that started playing. Now I lost track of what my point of this whole story is, but I'm pretty sure it had something to do with the fact that this whole divide and conquer, getting us to turn on one another. You see religion used as a weapon. You see, vaccines, even just like the anti-vaxxers and the pro-vaxxers. And I think we need to do a better job of kind of looking for those similarities and seeing that, like, much of us would be on the same team if we just sat down and had a logical discussion and talked about what we want and what we need, and our own personal views. And even if you disagree on things, it's okay, because it's like that saying, if we have the same enemy, then we're friends, or however that goes. I went to a lot of protests and rallies and stuff like that, and I saw a lot of Trump signs. I saw a lot of anti-vaccine signs, and I'm like, okay, maybe I wouldn't agree with everybody here, but we're fighting for the same thing. So we're teammates and we're friends and we're allies. And to me, that's really important. So, the whole I find that in the last year, like I said, religious people seem to be on the front lines, and I think a lot of it has to do with the fact that they are asking these bigger questions and they are seeing the big picture. And I just had James Perloff on my last episode, and I was talking to him about this, because he's also very religious. About how, basically asked the question, do you think it has something to do with the fact that if you believe in a greater good, if you believe in a God, something bigger than us, then it's much easier to accept that there must be some evil. And I think a lot of people are having a hard time accepting that there could be a eugenics motivation.
Are you
There could be.
kidding me? We have the largest amount of slavery in the world right now, largest amount ever. We have human trafficking, millions, and most of them do not come back. That's a lie when they say they come back. Children, including, we know they torture and kill children. Adrenochrome is real. We have now trying to take away all of our genders. Now they are in many schools teaching masturbation to first graders. Now the UNICEF is coming out in the open saying that pornography is a human right of a child, that it's not harmful to them. I mean, I could go on and on and on. We glorify the people who go to Epstein's Island, and we know what happens there. How do you not see there's evil in the world? Genocides are happening all the time, but they don't report it. They'd rather tell you something else stupid on the media. We have atrocities, and if you in your home, you're nice and cozy, that's wonderful. But the world has become and is very demonic, and humans, I don't see a human doing some of these acts that are so horrific. People that have no conscience, I think, are doing these things. But you have to see that there's a lot of links, a lot of connections to the people pushing this agenda that we're facing right now that participate in those other things that I mentioned. And so these people, if you don't believe in God or Satan, they do. They definitely do. They make sure the symbolism is everywhere. Once you know the symbolism, you can't get it out of your mind. They use symbolism everywhere. The 666, Lucifer, all those things. There's many other ways they do it. If you wouldn't believe how many things are in these concoctions they call vaccines. It is very symbolic. They are not trying to hide it. They believe in that. And they believe through using these things, they can become gods. These are quotes. Ray Kurzweil even says, oh, there's no God, but soon there will be one. So just know that even our own government, why we went to war with Iraq, we actually were going after the antiquities there. And look up Nimrod and Gilgamesh. There's a tomb there that our own troops went into the biggest, bloodiest battle over. Nimrod, Gilgamesh. This is biblical. He was the one that wanted to kill God. They found his body, supposedly is incorruptible. And, I'm just giving you examples that this, if you don't believe it, other people do. And they fight over this, okay? So this is something you have to look at. There is evil out there, and we have to face that.
Yeah, and honestly, it's one of those things where when something happens in history, we assume like, okay, that was before, we have been enlightened and things are better now. But since the beginning of time, people have conquered one another. There's been people who believe that they are the elite, that they're the monarchy, and they're the ones who should be making the decisions for society and for everybody. So the fact that people have a hard time believing that could happen now, I mean, I think it kind of just gives credit to how well they've hidden it, right?
Well, not anymore. If you learn about symbolism, you'll see it everywhere. It's
Well, I mean, hidden it from like the average person, because like you go to the UK or other countries, it's like, oh, we have a dictator, we have a monarchy. They openly state it. In America, we have those same things. The only difference is because we disguise it, then people are like, oh no, we have a democracy, right?
Well, that's when you have to start using your thinking skills and critical thinking and question, do we really? If I don't have freedom of speech, if I'm not allowed to do X, Y, Z, if I don't have freedom of choice over what happens to my body, that doesn't sound like a democracy to me, right? So I think you have to start asking those questions. I mean, you have to start asking those questions now, because things are moving fast and they're not in the best interest of the health and well-being of a person. So if you don't start asking the hard questions, really deep questions, the choice is going to be made for you about what happens to you in the future here.
Two questions I've kind of had guests on that have had kind of some similarities in answers, but some differences also. So I just wanted your take on it. One is, we'll start from the beginning of this whole story, how this all started. Do you think that it was purposely leaked, or was it just something that happened that they were taking advantage of, and a situation that they're taking advantage of? And then two, regardless how it started, what do you think is the end game? I believe, and I'm sure you also believe, there's much more than just trying to get everybody vaccinated.
As far as me purposely leaked, you mean this virus that they say that was going around?
Yeah, yep.
Oh, this has been planned for a long, long time. I've been expecting it for many years, so this is not a surprise. Because there's many plans. Codex Alimentarius is probably the main plan of the world. Then you have Agenda 2030. You have the Internet of Everything, the World Economic Forum, Davos, G20. All of them have the same game plan. All of them say there's too many of us. They need to thin out the herd, called the culling. They hope for billions to be off the planet by 2030. That's their plan. The rest of us, they want to make sure this time in history, that we are controlled. And so that takes the next step into something called transhumanism or human 2.0, or Internet of Everything, where everything, including humans, are connected wirelessly to the big broadband, around the world. We're connected to each other, to every electronic device everywhere, so that there's constant surveillance. And they even call it predictive policing too. So this is where they see a human going. They say by the year 2030, we'll all be cyborgs, part human, part cyborg, and that we won't have any privacy because we're connected now, we're surveillance. No, we won't own anything, but we'll be happy. And then the next paragraph, this is the World Economic Forum telling us 2030. The next paragraph saying every thought and every dream will be recorded and known, and that hopefully none of those thoughts or dreams will go against the paradigm or the narrative of the time, because if they do, you will be held accountable and it's punishable for what you think or dream of. This is true. Look it up, World Economic Forum, and they say other things in there too. For the deadline is 2030. So everything that's happening right now is going towards that kind of scenario. That's the fourth industrial revolution, the Great Reset. I mean, all the names, still the same end game, still the same thing. There's only a teeny tiny amount of supposed people that will not be a part of that. And the rest of us that still are around on Earth will be, part robotic, cyborgs, connected to the Internet of Everything, transhumanists, whatever you want to call it. It's all the same thing. But what it's doing is taking away your ability to think creatively, to have autonomy over your body and your mind, and to have the freedom to just be, right? So what's the point? What's the point of existing in that manner? It's quite frightening. And they always do everything in an inversion of God. It's a blasphemy. So they believe in us. We will be immortal at that point, but not like the way you would think is a soul. Being immortal to them is just thoughts and memories and dreams. So they would upload those into the cloud, then download them into a new body or robotic body or digital avatar. These are the things they truly say over and over again, like a Westworld, but terrible. And also, we will be connected to one another. We already are, but they say we will, by the AI, this supercomputer hive mind. So these are real plans. You have to look them up. They've been doing this for a long time, and now it's go time. Now they've launched it, and they have their deadline of 2030. But again, we have to consent. We have to go along with it or choose that. So that's where it comes to us waking each other up and helping people to see what's really happening. It's not about a virus. It's not about this injection so much. It's about the bigger plan for us, what they're trying to push us into, but we have to agree to it because we are the 99%. We decide really what happens. We have to agree to that.
Yeah, the whole just humans, it almost seems like people just don't understand how much we need to be connected, and like you said, in ways we are. I mean, I've had Rupert Sheldrake on, who has a lot of really interesting theories on how we're all connected. And to me, it's like this idea of like downloading consciousness to a robot, or all these crazy ideas of kind of putting us together with machines and transforming it into something new. I just don't think that people realize how it's not going to bring you happiness. You see it now with like social media, and like when social media first started getting popular, MySpace, all these things, like you think, oh, it's gonna connect us all, and then in person interaction would be less necessary because I get to feel like I'm talking to all my friends via text message or via social media, and it didn't make up for it. Like there's still something missing when as much as I enjoy Zoom calling my guests in, I know it would be different if they were here and we're in person and we're talking and we could pick up on social cues and we could interact in person. It's a different feel. We connect differently. This whole idea of like, just like simulating reality and thinking that it's going to bring us some bliss, I think is madness. I mean, even if you could download your consciousness or something like that, I mean, who I am today is different than who I am after this, or even who I am right now in this moment is different than who I am after this interview. I mean, we're constantly changing. Every interaction with people, every thought that goes through our head, while have internal dilemmas and we think about things, like we're constantly changing slightly. So it's like if I downloaded my consciousness right now, that robot would be different than if I downloaded my consciousness an hour from now or 2 hours from now or whoever, So this idea that like you can quantify humans and consciousness is just, it's madness. I don't get it. I think unfortunately a lot of people in science, they get so caught up in one specific task, like, hey, I'm going to try to come up with this great idea, and they don't see the big picture. They get so caught up in that individual thing, like, oh, I'm just working on this one aspect of AI, and that's my goal is to do this. And it's like they don't look at the big picture of like, okay, how is this going to be used? How is it going to be used for good? But how can it be used for bad? How can it turn into something that I couldn't even foresee that could be dangerous to humanity? To be optimistic and find hope, I like to believe that as much as they think they can use some digital machine or something to make up for human interaction and for our need for to be social creatures, I just don't think they can. I don't think we'll be satisfied.
They don't want to do that. You have to understand the people that are pushing this, that are on the top, it trickles down from the top. Let me just give you, he's not that big, but let's say Fauci. Fauci believed in going around and manipulating the laws and finding loopholes and finding ways to fund still this gain of function research. So what he did is really break the law. He's supposed to be the one that you look up to for morals and ethics because he's in charge of, but no, you see that from the very top, all of our leaders have no morals or ethics. They're breaking laws, they're finding loopholes, and that trickles down. Where's the balance? Where's the checks and balance? Well, we left out any sort of God or anything, which is important because it helped keep people in line. And so the people that are in charge of these science programs, and just so you know, I go back to Epstein, but Epstein was involved with this program that we're dealing with right now with the technology that they're using in transhumanism with these injections, et cetera. He met with the scientists of MIT, the big Ivy League schools. He met with Bill Gates. He met with all these people. He was funding them. So he was actually wanting to make superhumans himself with his own DNA. I mean, this all goes back, everything you see in the news, actually, this all goes back to the same agenda. You have to know about human trafficking. You have to know about pedophilia. You have to know about Epstein. You have to know about all the connections because these people, this tiny group of people, they're all connected. They're the ones pushing the strings. So let's say, devil's advocate, this technology is just fantastic like the movies show you. Just let's say that. But the problem is the people that are in charge of operating, organizing, manipulating this are going to be these people with no ethics or morals that frequent people like Epstein's Island, that are known for lies and deceit, are known to think of us as useless eaters, are known to have no value for human life and just a dollar sign, who have no care if you're in hurt or pain, or that you have no ability to represent your human rights. They don't care. So that's what you have to face. They have been given this ability to push this agenda and to have the power to do that. So it's up to us to say no, to say that is not the way we want our lives, our children's lives to be. Because if you're waiting for one of them to get a conscience, I'm sorry, I find that hard to believe. It comes to us, the 99%, to wake up and say, no, we're not going down that road. Because I doubt their habits, their sick, unhealthy habits will change when this program happens in 2030. I think it'll be another way to push their appetites to a new level.
Yeah, the whole Jeffrey Epstein thing I thought was going to red pill a lot of people, and soon after, people were like, "Yeah, human trafficking and pedophilia is not a huge issue." It's like, wait, you do realize like this guy kind of exposed the fact. I mean, many of us in the alternative media community have been talking about him and Dennis Haster and Jimmy Savile and the Franklin scandal, and I mean, you can go down and down the rabbit holes of all these just child trafficking and pedophilia and all these things that have been kind of brushed away and suppressed. I mean, the Franklin scandal, there was that documentary Conspiracy of Silence, which was supposed to come out, and then eventually, I think it was Discovery Channel or whoever was putting it out, eventually didn't release it. And then you have that ABC anchor who openly talked about how I've been reporting on researching the Jeffrey Epstein story forever, and ABC didn't let me talk about the story. Her name was like Amy, whatever it was, Amy something. But yeah, it just it is a real thing. And when you look at like the Podesta, I mean, some of the artwork in his house, you look at all the weird things that these guys are caught up in. I mean, all the secret societies, all these things just seem like for the average person, it seems hard to believe. But it's like, how do you explain some of these rituals? How do you explain?
It's bigger than people would ever want to know. And the problem is, Ricky, is if they're able to get this technology into everybody, they will have the ability to do these crimes on such a level that it will be at your doorstep. It will be one of your family members next. It really will, because this technology, if you look into it, is frightening. They have the ability to rewrite memories. They have the ability to implant memories. They have the ability to, once you allow this technology inside your body, just like you can hack into a computer, you can rewrite something in a computer, you can download something. Literally, this is the same thing as a human. There's no difference. Why would you allow this thing to go on without even a dialogue or an ethics or committee that's involved or everybody talking about it? Because you have these people that have been known to be involved in this, and then you're going to let them go with a program that then can completely manipulate the human psyche and consciousness. It's very dangerous. There's a lot of compartmentalization that goes on in science and medicine where they're just working on their tiny little thing like this. And, as people go up in certain divisions, let's say, I can tell you that I've noticed they pick certain personality types. Like perhaps there was a kid that was picked on a lot in school, and they get them before they usually go through all their college years. So that's stopping your social development, right? Your ability to gain some emotional intelligence. You stop that. But they're bright. And so they take them and then they start to get them in these programs where they think they're better. There's this air when you meet these people in these meetings, there's this air of, I am above you. I'm from, I'd almost like I'm another genetics than you. Like you're just the fodder, you're just the cattle, I'm something else. And if you look at their background, they're the same kind of people they were picked on. And now they're like, now it's my time. Now it's my time. It's a dangerous person to have in a position of power. And they have him in charge of different, let's say, tech industries and things like that. So I've seen that happen, and then compartmentalization. And then people who are they're so disconnected from everything. They're just doing their 9-to-5 routine, their grind. I just got to get through today. And they're not thinking about anything else and getting through the day to day. They're not elevating their consciousness or their mind more about what's really important. So they just don't care, I guess. They're not connected. There's a lot of things I've seen like that. But the people ultimately at the very top, the little that I've met, I feel like I'm looking at not another person's eyes, another human's eyes. It's different. There's not empathy for human life. There are psychopaths in the world. That is a real phenomenon. The psychopath has no connection with the consciousness or empathy or feeling for another. They just don't see it that way. it's only themselves and everybody else is just in the way. And unfortunately, somehow a lot of those people rose to the top of these programs, and so we have to be the ones that defend ourselves, and we can do it. So don't I just tell people, don't think there's this magic person that comes out of somewhere and saves the day, that you don't have to do a thing. You just sit there and you wait and eat Cheetos on your couch watching Netflix and waiting for the day they come. That's not how that works. We have to speak up for ourselves, because unfortunately the checks and balances are really off, and we have some psychopaths running these programs. The more you look into it, the more it is really frightening. If we let them do it, we have to let them get away with it, though.
Yeah, that's why I have such a soft spot for people who are outspoken, people who do put their credibility on the line, or they put their reputation on the line to say how they really feel, because there is a lot of backlash. You see it over and over again where anybody who questions anything. I mean, Joe Rogan on his podcast with Dave Smith a while ago, you maybe heard of this case where all he said the most innocent thing, like, if you're really young and you're healthy, you probably shouldn't get the vaccine. And like, because he has such a pull and it's such a big show, they had to jump on that, because God forbid that he even made anybody skeptical about the product. And headline said Joe Rogan anti-vaxxer, Joe Rogan, it's like, and you would hope that that would wake people up to the fact that this is some of the reason why some people aren't speaking out, is because they're so afraid of being labeled. They're so afraid of mainstream media and all these hip pieces to just lump you in with the tinfoil hat crazy people, that they're afraid of speaking out. But that's why people like yourself and people like myself who have the courage to speak out, we need to continue to do it. And I know, these are controversial topics. These are topics that people feel like if you bring up, it could cause an argument, it could cause friction in friendships or whatever it may be. I'm notorious for it. I mean, somebody brings up the vaccine or whatever, like, I don't just ignore it. I mean, I put in my 2 cents. I mean, a little bit is because I hope I can protect them. I hope I can give them the other side of the argument that I know they probably haven't been exposed to, and just give them some information. Maybe I won't sway them from not getting the vaccine, but at least I can give them a little bit of information to kind of think about, ponder on, and maybe what I told them with maybe some other things they run into, little by little, we start kind of chipping away at that narrative, and they start questioning things. And it's hard because these are topics, especially the vaccine topic. And then when you get into these bigger issues about what the end game is, and like you said, the Great Reset, and how they're trying to remold society, these are tough for some people to digest. It's hard for them to kind of take that all in. But I'm with you 100%. Like, we have to keep talking, we have to keep trying, we have to keep fighting. And one thing that I'm a little nervous about is so many people that were so motivated during 2020, because this stuff has basically seeped into every aspect of our lives. Before, you could kind of ignore these battles and what big pharma was doing, and transhumanism and eugenics and all that stuff, because you could go out to eat, you could go to the club, you could go have a drink, you could go to restaurants. And then once it affected all of us, I think it motivated a lot of people. You start seeing new podcasts popping up. You start seeing a lot of people who weren't into these type of topics being much more intrigued with it. But I'm worried that some of that anger and frustration that led to people being proactive, that some of that's going away. We're going to get caught up in, like you said, the routine of everyday life, and almost forget that behind the scenes there's fights going on, and there's battles, and there's things that we can't ignore, which does make me nervous, because I keep telling people, like, even though I'm excited that I can go out to eat with my family and I don't have to look for the restaurant that doesn't force us to wear masks or whatever, I'm grateful to have some of those things back. They should have never been taken in the first place. It makes me upset just as much as I'm grateful for it. I'm grateful that I've got them back, and I'm upset that they were ever taken in the first place. And that keeps me motivated. It still frustrates me. I mean, the fact that I have to go to the gym, I can go to the gym now and play basketball and do all these things that I enjoyed before. And every time I do them, I have this, like, this internal thing where it's just like a little piece of me is happy that I get to do it again, and a little piece of me is upset that I didn't get to do it for a year, and that like we should be grateful now that we get some of our freedoms back. I had a guest on my show. He's like, if I give you 50 feet of chain, are you free? If I give you 100 feet of chain, are you free? And that's kind of like this psychological trick that we're falling for now. It's like we feel like we're free because they're giving us some of our freedoms back. It's like, well, they still got us on a chain, and we have to break that chain and completely just realize that they don't have the power and they don't have the control. And united, we actually have much more power than we think.
No, that is true. I mean, we live in a very broken world, a broken system that is meant to oppress and suppress us. And if we don't stop it at this very moment, it could be almost impossible in the future to stop it, the momentum that this is going. And I always tell people, perhaps you think you're old enough now. I hear that all the time. I don't care. I'll just die. Who cares what happens in the world? Okay, fine. But we all have a moral obligation to things that are weaker, more fragile than us, which means nature and children. You have to defend them and protect them. And if you don't, then humanity is already gone. Then it's already gone. Because what makes us different than anyone else? It's that compassion and empathy. Otherwise, we're just biological machines that perhaps need to be exterminated if we don't have that compassion and that love and that empathy. That's what separates us. That's what makes us great. And so if you decide you're just too lazy or too apathetic or just don't care to speak up at least for human rights for the future generations, I don't have much to say to that person, but that's not me. I'll speak up. I don't do this for me. This is not good for me. I was speaking up. It's not good for me at all. That's okay. It's not about me. This is about trying to light the fire in as many people as possible and to do my best to protect the more fragile and more weak. And I'll do that until I'm done here on earth.
Yeah, I think many of us, we definitely don't do this for us. I mean, nobody wants to be called a conspiracy theorist every time they talk, or called an anti-vaxxer and lumped in with those terms, because a lot of times once they call you that, they're done listening. They're basically saying, well, your opinion doesn't matter. I think one of the symptoms of us being unfulfilled, we're depressed, we're materialistic. Like, these are all symptoms of us not asking these questions and looking for a greater purpose, like you're talking about, doing things for the greater good. Empathy, I think, is very important. Unfortunately, I think we've created a system that kind of rewards people who aren't empathetic. It's like, if you're a psychopath, if you can kind of look past harming people, if you can look past and ignore hurting people, then you can kind of work your way up the corporate ladder and just look at ones and zeros. And it's like, oh, I know that person has a family to feed, but I need to cut costs, so I'm going to lay your ass off. And that's kind of the world that we live in, especially in America. They seem like they're winning, right? Like the ones who are like financially ahead, they have the nice car, the big house, all this stuff, all the material stuff. But you meet most of them, they're self-medicated with drugs, alcohol, they're unhappy, their kids hate them, their wives hate them. They don't have the life that we think that they have. It's like, well, to me, I'm okay if I don't have material wealth, as long as I have wealth in love and community and friendships. That's why you see where my parents were born in northern Portugal. They're farmers. Everybody was happy. They didn't have material things. My mom was one of my mom was one of 7 and my dad was one of 12. They lived in a house with no running water. They had food. They had wine because they made wine, and they had friendships and community. And church was looked at very differently. Everybody would go to the church. Everybody knew the priest. The priest would come eat at your house. It was nice. And then you kind of get sold this lie that it's like, come to America where happiness is, because you can get all these material things. And then people come to America, they leave all those things that were actually important, like community and friendships and spending time with loved ones and treating people well. You leave that all behind for this lie that, like, hey, you get in America, you can get all these material things and this life is way better. And then you get there and you're like, oh crap. Like I've been sold a lie. Like I have all these material things. It didn't lead to happiness. This road was a dead end. It led me to the emptiness instead of happiness. And so I think it is a trick that people fall for in America. And being a foreigner myself, and being friends with a lot of other foreigners and a lot of my family that are foreigners, you see it. Portugal or in other European countries or other countries just in general, they might not have as many ones and zeros in the bank account. They might not have as many material things, but they seem to be much more at peace and happy. And to me, that's way more important.
Yep, that's very well said. I agree. You know, being in Dominican Republic for a while, people there thought we were crazy, and they're right. And I learned to really scale down of what I had tremendously and realized I was a fool for all those years. I didn't need all that stuff, and we still don't. And we work, the stuff owns us. We work to keep the stuff, which is so insane. You know, it's not about having the interactions with others, and you're working so many hours, but yet you can't enjoy the life and be outside and sit down and have a nice long dinner with people and enjoy how you're cooking or grow something. Enjoy the moments, you know, of being together and community. Wow, in the United States, very little of that goes on. Maybe a little bit was you know, resurrected this past year with everyone being in lockdown, but people need to really look at what do they really need. What do they really need is stuff. It's crazy. We do it to ourselves.
Yeah, well, the president's called the president because it's a gift. I mean, people don't live in the present. They don't live in the now. People don't spend time just pondering on things. And it's so easy for a week to go by, 2 weeks to go by, 3 weeks to go by, and you're just doing the same thing every day and never once to hit the brakes and think about, like, what am I doing? Am I even happy with what I'm doing? Is this like the path that I want to go down? My years and days on this earth are limited, and I'm spending much of it just in this routine and in this days going along with the herd without ever asking the bigger questions and maybe thinking about, is there any purpose or meaning in what I'm doing? These are really important times because some people did take 2020 and they're like, you know what, like maybe I don't spend enough time with the family because now I had more time at home with the family and I was happier. Maybe I was living too much of a fast paced life, but I see people do that thing of like buying a house they can barely afford, and then they're stuck working that job they hate. They chain you down. You don't have any freedom. You don't have any flexibility. You know, now financially, you can't go do something spontaneous like travel or pursue another career path. And same thing with college, right? Like that huge debt. You come right out of college, you're in debt, and debt is basically enslaving you. You know, I know people who are grown adults, their 50s and 60s, just paid off college debt. You know, they were paying it off. I'm like, they tell you, oh, you can make six figures when you get out of college, but you also owe six figures. So it's like a lot of these things are tricks to keep us enslaved and keep us just feeding the system. I mean, I look at this system like it's some giant, greedy, obese person who just like, give me more, give me more. And we have to keep feeding it, keep feeding it. And then when you do stop feeding it and it starts falling apart, that's the thing about the whole like transhumanism and this new normal and all this stuff. In a way, I'm like, yeah, the old system was broken, and there are things that need to be repaired. I kept saying no new normal, no new normal. I want no new normal. Like, don't let them rearrange the world as we know it. And then we get some taste of the way things were. We're like, oh yeah, that's right. This wasn't perfect either. Like the old normal needed some repair too, because we were working too much. We didn't care about family and friends and all that stuff. We need to maybe have a new normal, but a new normal in the way we want it, and what's really important. Have a new normal in regards to having some awakening, conscious awakening to what's really important, and spirituality, and the fact that we are connected, and we are all brothers and sisters, and we are all sharing this planet with one another, and society is only as good as its weakest link. I mean, if somebody's in poverty and they're struggling to survive, I can ignore that, but how long can I ignore that until they're robbing my house or they're putting somebody else in danger? So we all have incentive for that person to get back on their feet and to do well and help one another. I love having these conversations about these bigger questions because I do think during 2020 there was a little bit more of it, but real quickly people are back in their grind, people are back into their lives, and they're kind of forgetting that, you know what, like maybe we do have to analyze what we're doing and what it all means, and have these bigger questions. And this is where I think, even though I'm not a religious person, I see the importance of it. I see the importance in spirituality and any type of exercise that helps you analyze these things beyond the surface level. Are you optimistic? Because it seems like you're a little down.
No, I'm optimistic about us, about why this is happening. I'm just very disappointed, and especially now that the push is for the children about these injections. I'm so disappointed in the parents. I'm so disappointed in every elected official. I am so disappointed in the medical professionals and the scientists behind this, because that's just low and cruel. These are children. They have no reason to be experimenting on them. So I think you have to still call people out and be upset with them, because they need to hear that. Everybody needs to hear that, because now we're dealing, it's not just about you or me now, it's about children. So I'm a little pissed off. I'm a lot pissed off. But I still believe in humans and our divinity. And I've known God since I can remember. So this is not about religion. I've never been part of really religion. It's that I've had a knowing and a relationship with God. I remember being 3 years old, my hand on my hip, telling people who God was, because they told me God would punish me if I did something wrong. I'm like, no, God doesn't punish you. God is love. God loves you. You punish yourself. And I would go on my little preaching when I was 3. And I still feel that way. Like, people need to, it's a connection that you have to get by yourself. But if they could just see the divinity within us, we would never treat nature and each other again in this horrific way that we have been. And so I have this love and hope and faith. It's not for my human self, because I'm pissed off, my human self. It's coming from God. I'm just a vessel for God, and it is so strong. So I think it's the beauty of us waking up to who we are, who we always have been. And that's a beautiful thing. But again, in this transition, it's hard and it's awful and it's ugly, because there's going to be a lot of casualties. And I get really angry now that the children are drug into it.
Without a doubt, every time I hear a story about a parent even contemplating vaccinating their child, it just makes me so upset. And I it hits home. I mean, once, when you see kids being injured by a vaccine, when even with the inflated bullshit numbers, the chances of them being actually harmed by the virus are so small. It just shows the power of the brainwashing, the power of the propaganda, the influencers, the celebrities. I mean, I grew up a metalhead. Artists that were supposed to be going against the grain and rebelling, to me, like all these celebrities and artists that are celebrating getting vaccinated, like it boggles my mind.
How do you know they are?
Well, that's a good point.
Maybe some are, maybe some aren't. It's really easy to get a fake shot.
But my point is, like, what you're doing is your kids are influential.
They're manipulating, coercing.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and that's what really pisses me off, is that, for better or worse, you're a celebrity or you're an artist or you're a athlete. Kids look up to you. You might have not chose for them to look up to you, but you have that power and you have that influence, and you shouldn't take that lightly. So when you're basically promoting a product that you know nothing about, and you're just taking Dr. Fauci's word for it and the TV's word for it and Big Pharma's word for it, it boggles my mind that they'll put people at risk.
So celebrities, when were they ever for the good of the whole, though? I don't know if they ever were.
Yeah, you know what?
I don't know if they were.
I'm a fan of Russell Brand and some other people who've been outspoken. Well, I think one of the Pink Floyd members, he's been outspoken. Some people have been outspoken, and I'm one of those believers that, like, just because you're a celebrity or athlete, I know some people are like, oh, do your job and shut your mouth. Like, you're a celebrity, you're an athlete. Like, your opinion doesn't matter. I'm not a huge fan of that, because the truth is, why would my opinion matter? Why would anybody's opinion matter? If somebody has a well thought out opinion, regardless what the resume says, if they don't have a PhD or they do have a PhD, it doesn't mean they can't have well thought out ideas and opinions. My problem with the celebrities is that they're jumping on a bandwagon. They're completely motivated by political ideology. They're not motivated by science or evidence or anything like that. And you're pushing, you're helping big pharma, which a lot of these celebrities are supposed to be anti-corporate, pro-marijuana, like, the government's lying to you about how harmful marijuana is. Yet it's completely okay to trust them now. I'm optimistic because I do feel like people are awakening up a little bit, but there are still a lot of people who are brainwashed that I'm not sure we're ever going to get through to. I know I've held you up for a long time and probably bored you with some of my own passionate rants, but for people listening who want to keep up with your work, what's the best ways of connecting? Platforms
I'm still on Twitter at Dr. Madej, and Carrie Madej on Facebook. I guess that's the way they keep tabs on what I'm doing. So I put things on there that I'm doing. And then serendipitygroup.org. It's a backup website for exchanging information. So yeah.
Awesome. Yeah. And I know a lot of your interviews have been deleted off YouTube, but people, if you're looking for them, a lot of them you can still be found on Odyssey and BitChute and some of the alternative platforms.
Yeah, so they're all on the alternative platforms. Yeah.
Thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Hopefully,
Thank you, Ricky. It's been a pleasure.
Hopefully, if we talk again in the future, we'll have some more good news.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm hopeful. I'm still hopeful.
Thanks. Hey, enjoy the rest of your day, and I'm sure we'll talk again.
You too. Bye.
Take care.